Welcome to The Real Story. I'm Jenna, in for Gretchen today, and it has certainly been an interesting 24 hours. First, no vote yesterday on any border bill, and then news the House delayed its summer recess to hammer out a new version, which is said to include more funding for border security. In the meantime, lawmakers are reportedly considering an additional bill to prevent the president from using an executive order to allow more illegal immigrants to stay. This just days after several leading Republicans went to see the crisis firsthand. Among them, our next guest, Texas Congressman Randy Weber, who joins us live from Capitol Hill. It's okay. You can take a sip of water. We got a lot to get through, Congressman. It's great to have you on the program. So we've been told this has been an emergency for weeks, what's happening down at the border. Why is it so difficult to agree on a bill in the House?
Well, Jenna, from my perspective, what I've been saying from day one was that we need to put the focus on this president. This is about, from my vantage point, putting America first, making it about America and doing the right thing for America. I believe that we need to hold this president accountable, make him own DACA, the Deferred Action of Childhood Arrivals. This bill, before we agree to give him any more money, I think we ought to make it very, very specific about border security. I think we ought to make him rescind DACA so that he owns the problem. And then we ought to be really succinct in changing a couple of laws that he's actually used, in my opinion, against us. 2002 law, 2008 law. There's some disagreement on exactly how to do that. Obviously, we're in a short time frame now. So I'm wanting to read the bill. I'm wanting to make absolutely sure we get the most bang for our buck and we protect America in doing it.
Okay, so right now what we're hearing is that there would be a first bill that would include more funding, as we mentioned, for border protection. Then a second bill that would prevent, the intention would be to prevent the president for taking further executive action. You're talking about DACA, which is the deferred deportation. Would that work for you, that those bills are not together, they're separate? Would you be a yes on that?
Well, I've got to read the bill first. As I said, we're on such a short time frame. They're trying to get the bill put together, amended in the Rules Committee. The Texas delegation, we have an alert out. As soon as we get our hands on that bill, we're going to all come together and we're going to read that bill and we're going to go over that bill because, look, Texas has the vast majority of the southwestern border with Mexico. We've got the most. It's important to Texas and, of course, by extension, important to Americans. So we're wanting to get that bill and look at it and make sure we do hold the president accountable.
And you mentioned, we haven't seen it yet. So we hope to see it in the next hour or so. But as you mentioned as well, the clock is running. With such a short time frame, do you think it's appropriate for lawmakers to go on a summer recess?
I really don't, Jenna, and I stood up in the Republican conference and I told the leadership this. I've got a week's vacation with my grandkids in Florida, and they're all there waiting on me. All of our three kids and their sons and daughters are there to meet with me and my wife. My wife is there. I would stay up here the next 2 or 3 days as long as it takes. I've only got a week of vacation with them, but this is important. So I think we ought to stay here and do this the right way.
Even if you stay, though, the Senate is gone. They've already left town. So is it a futile exercise, Congressman, even if you do get something done?
Well, as everybody is beginning to understand, the Senate is where all good bills go to die. There's about 340 or so languishing over there that Harry Reid refuses to take up. We have to do the right thing. Again, I'll go back to what I said earlier. It's time to put America first. So the House has to do the right thing. Whether or not Senator Reid will get in gear and take this up, American public will be his judge on that. And I hope they speak up and speak loudly and speak quickly.
Well, what do you think is the message? What do you think is the message to the American people when so many lawmakers from both sides of the aisle are saying this is a major emergency, our border is actually not secure, we have a humanitarian crisis growing, and yet Congress can't act? What do you think is the message to America?
Well, I think the message needs to be that the president should own responsibility for this. He should admit that his DACA action of 2012 is what caused this. You see that, look at the charts, don't take my figures, look at HHS, DHS, Border Patrol, look at the uptick in all of these unaccompanied minors, they would call them. I was the vice chair of the Texas Borders Committee when I was in the state legislature. We've got Chinese nationals coming across. We've got Eastern religions coming across. Lord knows we've probably got Al-Qaeda, Hezbollah, and you can go right down the list coming across our southern border. So I think the message needs to be, Mr. President, you've got to use every resource at your disposal to secure this border because it's in America's national interest.
So he might say, okay, Congressman, I will. I'm going to take another executive action. I'm going to choose to legalize some of those that have recently crossed as a broader plan because Congress can't act. So what is preventing him from doing that if you are not able to pass any legislation? And even if you are able to pass legislation, is that still a possibility you're prepared for? And what do you do then?
Well, what prevents him from doing that? The answer, Jenna, is nothing. I mean, I'm ashamed to say that this Congress in the years gone by, 6 years almost of his administration, of course, this is my first term, hasn't stood up to this president and said enough is enough. The American public is expecting that. That's why in this bill I wanted the funding to be contingent upon his recension of DACA. It made him own the problem. It put America first. We took money from those 4 foreign countries, or foreign aid, because they weren't helping us. That would send a signal to the president that we're going to hold his feet to the fire. Those countries that are letting these kids come up north, and the drug smugglers and others, the gang members, we're going to cut off their foreign aid funding until they work in our best interest. And so I think we say that to the president and we make him accountable. Now, if he goes forward and tries to, and we've got a bill, the Blackburn-Cruz bill, which is what you're calling the DACA bill,
right,
which prohibits him from any other part of the government agencies. No funds can be expended for doing something like this going forward. So that's one provision that's a good thing. We've said to the president, we're going to preempt the president. He doesn't get to spend taxpayer dollars to open our border without any regard for national security.
Well, I don't know if the president just heard you, Congressman, but we just got news that he is going to be making some sort of a statement around 2:35. So in about 20 minutes or so from now, he's going to step to the microphone. We don't know exactly what he's going to talk about. This is the big news of the day. And Congressman Weber, you set us up nicely as you walk us through a few different sides of this legislation in the House and some of the bigger picture items as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jenna.